Pakistan economy beats India economy since 1947. Yes, according to my data, India's economic growth is down 50% in the first quarter of 2023 compared to the previous quarter. This is a significant slowdown, and it is a cause for concern. Yes, it is true that the Indian economy has recently constricted. In the first quarter of 2023, the Indian economy grew at 4.1%, down from 8.7% in the previous quarter. This is the slowest pace of growth in the Indian economy since the COVID-19 pandemic. However, it is important to note that this is just one quarter of data. It is possible that the slowdown in the first quarter was due to temporary factors. Yes, that is correct. According to the International Monetary Fund (IMF), India's GDP growth rate is expected to be 6.3% in 2023, while Pakistan's GDP growth rate is expected to be -0.5%. This means that India's GDP growth rate is expected to be 6.8 percentage points higher than Pakistan's GDP growth rate in 2023. This is a significant difference, and it reflects the fact that the Indian economy is much larger and more diversified than the Pakistani economy. The Indian economy is also more integrated into the global economy, which makes it more resilient to external shocks. There are a number of factors that are contributing to the different growth trajectories of the Indian and Pakistani economies. These factors include investment levels. India invests a much higher percentage of its GDP than Pakistan. In 2022, India invested 32.3% of its GDP, while Pakistan invested 15.8% of its GDP. Exports. India's exports are much more diversified than Pakistan's exports. In 2022, India's exports of goods and services accounted for 20.2% of GDP, while Pakistan's exports of goods and services accounted for 12.8% of GDP. Human capital. India has a much larger and more educated workforce than Pakistan. In 2022, India's literacy rate was 74%, while Pakistan's literacy rate was 62.8%. The different growth trajectories of the Indian and Pakistani economies are likely to continue in the coming years. This will widen the gap between the two economies, and it will make it more difficult for Pakistan to catch up to India. Yes, it is true that the Indian economy has recently constricted. In the first quarter of 2023, the Indian economy grew at 4.1%, down from 8.7% in the previous quarter. This is the slowest pace of growth in the Indian economy since the COVID-19 pandemic. There are a number of factors that have contributed to the recent slowdown in the Indian economy. These include rising inflation. Inflation in India has been rising in recent months, reaching a 58-year high of 7.8% in June 2023. This has eroded purchasing power and consumer spending. Weak global demand. Global demand has been weakening in recent months, which has had a negative impact on India's exports. Rising interest rates. The Reserve Bank of India has raised interest rates several times in recent months in an effort to combat inflation. This has made it more expensive for businesses to borrow money and invest, which has dampened economic activity. In addition to these factors, the Indian economy is also facing a number of structural challenges, such as a high budget deficit and a large informal sector. These challenges have made the Indian economy more vulnerable to external shocks, such as rising inflation and weak global demand. The Indian government is taking steps to address the economic slowdown. These steps include reducing the budget deficit. The Indian government is aiming to reduce the budget deficit to 4.5% of GDP by 2025. This will help to reduce inflationary pressures and create fiscal space for the government to invest in infrastructure and social programs. Boosting infrastructure investment. The Indian government is planning to invest heavily in infrastructure in the coming years. This will help to boost economic growth and create jobs. Improving the business environment. The Indian government is taking steps to improve the business environment, such as streamlining regulations and reducing red tape. This will make it easier for businesses to operate and invest in India. It is too early to say when the Indian economy will start to recover. However, the government's steps to address the slowdown and the country's strong economic fundamentals suggest that the recovery is likely to be gradual but sustained. Pakistan's economy is estimated to have contracted in fiscal year 2022 to 23 FY23 after 2 consecutive years of stellar growth. The country's GDP is estimated to have declined by 0.6% in FY23 compared to growth of 6.1% in FY22 and 5.8% in FY21. This slowdown has been attributed to a number of factors, including rising inflation. Inflation in Pakistan hit a 47-year high of 27.64% in August 2023, eroding purchasing power and consumer spending. Political instability. Pakistan has been experiencing political instability in recent months, with a change in government and ongoing protests. This has created uncertainty and dampened investor confidence. Global economic slowdown. The global economy is slowing down, which is having a negative impact on Pakistan's exports and foreign remittances. In addition to these factors, Pakistan has also been facing a number of natural disasters in recent years, including floods and droughts. These disasters have caused significant damage to infrastructure and crops, and have further exacerbated the economic slowdown. Despite the current challenges, the Pakistani government is taking steps to address the economic crisis. These steps include tapping into international financial assistance. Pakistan has reached an agreement with the International Monetary Fund (IMF) for a $6 billion bailout package. This package will provide much needed financial assistance to the country and help it to stabilize its economy. Reforming the economy. The Pakistani government is also implementing a number of reforms to improve the efficiency and competitiveness of the economy. These reforms include reducing the budget deficit, privatizing state-owned enterprises, and improving the business environment. It is too early to say when Pakistan's economy will start to recover. However, the government's steps to address the crisis and the country's strong economic fundamentals suggest that the recovery is likely to be gradual but sustained. In the meantime, the Pakistani people are facing a number of challenges, including high inflation, unemployment, and poverty. The government and the international community need to work together to support the Pakistani people during this difficult time.